Hello there, this is Swift, bringing you another game of Dawn of War 2 Elite from Seraph Palace. Today's fighters are Leonus playing as the XV8 Crisis Commander in this gorgeous looking venom green, I want to say, very pretty, versus Banshee Fan playing as this also similarly pretty Warlock of the Eldar. I'm quite liking this sort of white and kind of cream / ochre. It plays very well with these sort of, these kind of goblin green coloured Tau. So very nice, nice to see two very aesthetic opponents. You see Banshee's coming out for Banshee Fan, which I guess shouldn't really be surprising given the name is Banshee Fan. But they are an interesting choice versus Tau because of course Tau are very weak to melee, but getting the Banshees in there is not necessarily the easiest thing. So I wonder if we'll be seeing something like whatever that war gear for the Warlock is, the channeling runes, to just help the Banshees sustain against all the piercing damage. I mean, one thing we could see from the Crisis Commander is the repulsion shield to just basically knock those Banshees away. But we might see a secondary burst cannon. Who knows? This is a replay that I obtained from the Elite Mod Discord. I'm told that it is a pretty good game, by whatever standards there are today. I'm told that it's fun, I'm told that it's interesting. I'm not necessarily someone who looks for like crazy high skill games, I'm just looking for interesting games, ones that sort of showcase some stuff, and obviously Tau are out now and it's 3.0. So there's no doubt going to be a lot of Tau content from people like Indrid, people like Torpid, even myself. And we see that beautiful photon grenade coming down there from the Pathfinders, and this is kind of what I mean by the Banshees being an interesting choice, because they are going to be shut down easily if Banshee Fan is not careful. We're probably going to see the 1-1-1-1 build from Banshee Fan as they've gone for the Guardian Weapons team instead of opting for a second Guardian squad. I love how the Crisis Commander just kind of dabs on people when he melees them. Like he doesn't even punch them. He just sort of puts his head in his elbow and just kind of shrugs. It's a really bizarre animation. Although we do see the Banshees catching the Tau off guard there, so yeah, kind of scary for them. Vespids, of course, fantastic skirmishers, and a very interesting response here from Leonus. They are somewhat different to the rest of the Tau roster, given that, I don't know if you've noticed, but they be bugs. But they're also very competent melee fighters. They don't do power melee, I was corrected. But they do, a surprising amount of melee combat, and they have those neutron blasters, which, if I'm correct, they have a peculiar damage type. I don't know whether they have a unique damage type or whether it's something that's like inferno damage or something. We do actually see the Crisis Commander getting an upgrade here, the Armoured Battlesuit. So just going for that beefier approach on the Commander and doing knockback with the jump. So it's interesting that Leonus is sort of looking at Banshee Fan's composition and identifying the Guardian Weapons team as a significant threat, presumably because he's not going to have these Vespid available all of the time. So it's definitely an interesting choice. We do see the Banshees coming into flank right now, and I think Leonus is going to have to separate the Fire Warriors more, because at the moment the Fire Warriors, they do great amounts of damage, but they are being shut down by one Banshee squad, which is probably not what you want. So Banshee Fan is actually able to control what Leonus is doing with a small amount of units, and that is kind of the strength of Eldar, is you can get a lot out of very little if you know what you're doing with it. And I'm drinking a delightful iced coffee, so I hope that does not get picked up on the recording. But it is delightful. Oat milk, bit of cinnamon, tiny bit of like caramel syrup. Oh yeah, I'm a coffee enjoyer. I wonder if Eldar like coffee. I wonder if Tau like coffee. Tau probably have a really, really clinical reception to coffee. Like they probably just sort of drink the most boring, bland, space communist coffee. Whereas Eldar will probably drink coffee that is so delightful it will put you into a coma just from drinking some of it. Speaking of comas, I do feel a little bit like Banshee Fan was slightly in a coma by allowing these Vespids to just get away with decapping that wreck point, which, you know, it's a small nuisance, but everything adds up. It is going to reset the wreck point income. Oh, that's a very nice grenade there. Almost walks into it. And once again, we sort of see these Fire Warriors blobbing up, which is exactly what Banshee Fan wants, because that Immolator Blade is going to be doing some nice work to them. But we do see Leonus splitting now. Jump comes in. And I do wonder if Leonus is going to be trying to bash power. Interesting, they have both gone to tier 2, and we're seeing somewhat similar responses out of both of them, in that we see teleporting ranged squads from both of them, or rather mobile ranged squads in the form of the stealth suits and the warp spiders. It's kind of funny, in lots of ways Tau and Eldar share a lot of similarities in their grav tanks, advanced weaponry, similar combat doctrines in certain regards, but where the Eldar like to specialize in certain things with their aspect warriors, the Tau instead like to just get auxiliary factions to do a lot of the work. There is a surprising amount of overlap between the two factions in many ways, I feel. Gotta love the grav inhibitor drone there. Just really changing the situation there. Those warp spiders were going to do a lot of damage to the Pathfinders, but these stealth suits capitalized on the grav wave, and that just sees Banshee Fan forced back for now. Of course, we do have these aspect of fleetness Banshees who should be quite terrifying for Leonus, and the question is going to be, what's the response? So far these Fire Warriors are without upgrades. Pathfinders obviously have their Shazwi, have their Grav Inhibitor drone, and are going to be a bit of a nuisance. The Warlock is upgrading to the Cloak of Shadows, so could be tricky. I'm trying to think what the detector unit for Tau is. I'm actually not sure. It might be the Pathfinders. It is the Pathfinders. Okay, so once they've got their Shazwi leader, they can detect. So it's not like they won't be able to spot the Cloak of Shadows play, which does make me wonder what the Cloak of Shadows is all about. You know, what is the reason? Why did Banshee Fan go for a Cloak of Shadows when Leonus has such easy detection? These Vespids, though, are in some serious trouble versus the Banshees, and if they want, they could be able to chase, but they're choosing to take the flank, which is probably the wiser choice here. These Tau are quite badly caught out here if the Banshees decide to turn around. For some reason the Banshees are not turning around, instead it is the Warp Spiders teleporting in. And we do see the Repulsor Shield has been picked up here for the Crisis Commander, which is, you know, a pretty nice war gear to get against sort of any melee threats. You know, often you don't see people go for it because the idea of getting a second weapon on the Crisis Commander is kind of difficult to pass up because, I mean, imagine, you know, you get double the firepower. But in this case, it is totally understandable. These Banshees are actually in a little bit of trouble right now. They should be able to get out just fine, but did certainly take a few losses. But it does look as if they got 1 or 2 generators. Stealth suits just being incredibly sneaky right now, and I'm actually very intrigued to see what these stealth suits do for Leonus, because they're just sort of... they're an intriguing unit. They're a very intriguing unit, somewhat similar to Warp Spiders, but I want to see them do some sneaky things. I am really loving this colour scheme from Banshee Fan. Like, this is... it's a very nice colour. It's this kind of sort of creamy ochre colour, and with those little sort of blue accents to it, the kind of desaturated blue. I really like that. It's very, very understated. I think there's something to be said for colour schemes that don't sort of burn your eyeballs with their sheer colour. There's something nice about like some desaturated colours. Unfortunately, as the commander stopped to admire the desaturated colour palette of the Banshees, he forgot that they were chopping at his poor little legs. And now he's just going to struggle face first. I do really like the way that the Tau commander dies on the floor. Like, you can just see the guy being like, oh, I can't get up. My arms don't work. Help me. Where? Oh dear, I'm so juvenile. Howling Banshees once again providing some serious pressure to this power node, and the Guardian Weapons team just being a little rat annoying thing. And we do actually see a Falcon now from Banshee Fan, which completely passed me by, but is nonetheless a very, very interesting choice, and it's going to be a nightmare. But unfortunately, they got a little bit too cocky, and we do see some pulse rifles. No, we don't. No, just still pulse carbines for the Fire Warriors, but we do see enough firepower from the Tau to take down the Guardian Weapons team, which probably scuppers Banshee Fan's plan. Banshee Fan's plans a little bit too much. Try saying that fast. There is, though, a triple cap in the favour of Banshee Fan, and the map control is looking really bad right now. This stealth suit play has got to work from Leonus, because these Banshees have them in a bit of a tricky situation, and it was a nice jump, but ultimately they weren't able to do a lot with it. We do see some movement, though, on the side lanes. It looks as if Leonus is just ignoring Banshee Fan right now and just kind of going, well, you know what, I'm losing the power, all I can do right now is stall. Just have to be careful with these Vespids, because they are super low and somehow manage to not drop a model when flying away. Banshees do get grenaded on, their damage gets debuffed by the Fire Warrior's grenade from, it's not the Shazwi, is it? No, I don't think they have the Shaz... Oh, they do have the Shazwi leader. Okay. Ooh, 2 of them dying in a quick volley of fire there from the Falcon. Interesting. This Tau Crisis Commander is actually upgrading to a Fusion Blaster, which is going to be quite nasty, and we see jumping into position already to threaten. Stealth suits closing in with their Fusion Blasters, but they should be able to... Yeah, for a moment I thought I saw the Falcon die. I thought I saw the red numbers come up, but nope. Was not the case. Photon Grenade goes off on the Banshees, just making sure they can't chase as effectively. Warp Spiders on retreat path, which can actually be quite nasty given the power blades on the Exarch leader. Do drop 2 models. Might drop a 3rd. I think the base defense aura may have saved them there. And the Warp Spiders, for some reason, just retreating, even though the Banshees are applying pressure. I really I really don't think they needed to retreat, but they did use a lot of their energy, so maybe that's why. What's interesting is that Leonus has just been using the Fire Warriors in these engagements to slowly reassert control of the battlefield, and we saw this line down the middle, which was completely red apart from this wreck point earlier, and now it is completely blue apart from the power node on the right hand side. And it is kind of one of the things that I intended for with Seraph Palace. I wanted Seraph Palace to be a map where it's not huge, but it does allow you to play in ways that let you sort of cap around your enemy. So even if your enemy holds the center, you can still outcap them. And a lot of the points are very transient. I find maps with too many natural points to be a little bit dull, which is what a lot of my earlier maps are kind of like. There's too many natural points. Lots and lots of contested points are way more interesting because you just get more action, more fighting. Although, of course, the reason that people love bloody Fen Dunlock in 3v3 is because it has very safe natural points and like only a couple contested ones. But Fen Dunlock is a story for another day. It is not my finest hour. Even if I like the map on many levels, I dislike how spammy it is. Do you see Banshee Fan actually gone tier 3 and is bringing out some Seer Council, which should provide some serious threat against Leonus's army, providing that Banshee Fan can actually get them in. Cheeky little plasma grenade there on the XP8 Crisis Commander, just doing a little bit of chip damage. Might actually lose these stealth suits if the Warp Spiders can get another teleport in. Not sure why they didn't teleport. I'm pretty sure the teleport cooldown is incredibly short, so I feel like they could have finished off the stealth suits. Banshee Fan has been putting some incredible pressure on the power right now, and obviously we did see, whilst I was yapping, Leonus destroy the power node on Banshee Fan's side, but nonetheless, you know, I really like a game like this where power is being threatened everywhere. See these Guardians here, just sort of chilling, level 2, no Warlock leader or anything, but they do have their battle equipment to keep them a little bit beefier. And this Falcon will no doubt be getting the energy shield very soon, I imagine, because that thing with the energy shield is an absolute nightmare. We also see, very interesting, that Banshee Fan is a big fan of my god, whatever that global ability, I have forgotten so many names of things in this game, but he's a fan of that Warlock global ability that gives the damage resistance on units, which, you know, makes a lot of sense. He's relying a lot on Banshees, relying a lot on Seer Council, but it is just interesting to see how many times it's been put out there, and I believe it costs 75 red, so it's not crazy expensive. Speaking of, actually, we do see Leonus has enough for a nuke. Banshee Fan, of course, a little bit far off a nuke himself, but that's what it is. We can see a cheeky little immolator here from the Warlock. Warlock has been an interesting choice. We see lots of Heart of Darkness and Cloak of Shadows plays, I noticed lately. Like, that seems to be a very popular build for Warlocks. I mean, I say very popular, I've seen it twice, but given that I've cast 2 games with Warlocks in, if they're both buying Cloak of Shadows and Heart of Darkness, then I feel like that just sort of must be indicative of some kind of meta that's going on. And I mean, Cloak of Shadows is a pretty sensible war gear. The idea of basically stealthing your entire army around you is pretty powerful. But the Heart of Darkness is an interesting one, which I guess, you know, restoring your energy, pretty useful. But of course it was classically associated with the, what did Maestro Cretella call it? The bitch build, which was the Merciless Witchblade. So you see, there's actually real danger of these stealth suits going down. The Warlocks do retreat, but they do get picked up by the Warp Spiders on retreat, who are almost level 4. These Warp Spiders have done crazy work to Leonus. I keep having to glance at the unit rosters to remind myself which one is which. I should be remembering Banshee Fan is the one playing as the Eldar. It should be extremely obvious. Which one's playing as the Tau? Ooh, could it be Banshee Fan? No. Oh. Honestly, what a fool. Cheeky little grenade does catch a couple of Pathfinders. Warlock, again, being a nuisance. I'm not sure how useful the Warlock has been in general. I think he's definitely provided some irritation, and these Banshees are level 4, so clearly the Warlock's been taking a lot of firepower away from the Banshees, and these Banshees have got crazy XP just from gen bashing, but
the enemy has found us.
Yeah. Not sure how useful it's been necessarily. Leonus, interestingly, is staying tier 2 and has opted to go for a Great Warlock, which is a very nice choice versus, you know, this Eldar infantry. I do believe it is vulnerable to EMP grenades, which is not ideal, but its vehicle armor is going to make these Banshees completely ineffective against it, and is going to make Banshee Fan really have to rethink the approach. We may be seeing something like Fire Dragons coming out for Banshee Fan to just quickly neutralize this Great Warlock. No, instead we will be seeing a Bright Lance, which is also a reasonable choice. Though with the Vespid, it is slightly vulnerable. Pathfinders could actually go down here. 4 HP? Insane. Warlocks picking up their heavy melee singing spears, so they are going to be quite a threat to this Great Warlock, and I do wonder what Leonus's thinking was. I'm a little unsure. Interesting, we don't see any pulse rifles for the Tau. They're sticking with the pulse carbines, presumably because the pulse rifle upgrade probably wouldn't provide a meaningful upgrade in their damage output given the infantry armor of the Eldar. Great Warlock farts in the Banshee's general direction, causing them to get red and stinky. I presume that's what that move does. I'm sure it's lore accurate. Tau Battlesuit Commander just sort of also farting in the general direction of the Banshees, except he expresses his farts as a kinetic disc of light, which, you know, we all have our own issues. But I'm actually quite curious about this play. We do have a nice little Barracuda strafing run there, which does some decent chip damage. Obviously, the weapons team is forced off, which is what you need, but these Seer Council might be just tearing apart this Warlock. The Crisis Battlesuit Commander is going to go down in retreat, one would imagine. And this Greater Warlock is kind of... I don't think it's going to survive. Oh, but... Oh, the retreat is massive. Banshee Fan does not stick it out to the end, and it's one of those calls where it's very difficult to make, because if things had not gone well, then Banshee Fan could have lost the Seer Council, but at the same time, I do feel like the Great Warlock maybe escaped when it could have died, and this could be one of those engagements that actually seals the deal, because if that Warlock had died and the Seer Council had escaped with even just one model, that would probably be GG. But as it stands, things are still all to play for. And what I do want to say is, what's been really nice about watching both of these players play is that there haven't been crazy unit losses. You know, it's like we're not seeing stupid misplays and people forgetting about units. Like, they have both been very cautious. We do obviously see things like the stealth suits being taken down by the warp spiders, who, by the way, must be... Oh, they're nearly level 4. Nearly level 4. But, you know, broadly, apart from a Guardian Weapons team, apart from a Falcon and stealth suits, both of these players have been very good at maintaining their army sizes. Leonus does have a nuke on hand and could definitely make use of that. The Seer Council are almost level 3 as well, and this poor Guardian Weapons team with the Bright Lance just can't really do a lot. I am definitely intrigued by the choice. I wonder if Fire Dragons would have been better. I always, you know, I'm going to be like, well, I think that they should buy this certain unit, but, you know, I'm not necessarily going to be correct. I am certified worst player. Level 4 Banshees are absolutely terrifying. Let that, you know, let the record show they are terrifying. And given that these Seer Council are almost level 3 as well, that's brutal. These warp spiders are level 4 now, so yeah. Ooh, that very nice grenade. Very nice grenade. Thankfully not a frag grenade. And these Warlocks. Look at that, level 3 now, 3,300 HP, and having said, isn't it nice that there aren't any losses? It looks as if the stealth suits have gone down for a second time this game, and the Great Warlock really kind of just needs to get out of here, which is a bit easier said than done given the Bright Lance, Seer Council, and the presence of the Haywire Grenade. Taufire Warriors are capping the VP. They do manage to secure the 2-to-1. Warlocks there in the center will be forced off by the Great Warlock, but there might be another Haywire Grenade coming in here. Pathfinder's holding up in the building, trying to get these Banshees off the point. They do manage to grab Inhibitor them off the point. Isn't that beautiful? But they are going to have to be careful, because if Leonus takes their eye off these Pathfinders, they will die. Because, I mean, it only takes the Banshees a moment to just slaughter them. And I think in the chaos of this fight, that's exactly what Banshee Fan should be doing. But maybe Banshee Fan figures that they don't have enough damage. Really nice pickup, though, there from the Vespid, and even if the Banshees do wipe the Pathfinders, things are looking a little bit moot. These Vespid are closing in for the kill. They might pick up the Guardian squad with the Flamers. They do. That is huge, and that has got to be GG for Leonus. Full army. Banshee Fan's army being reduced. We do see the Autarch turning up right here at the end. Looking resplendent. Look at that Autarch. Absolutely beautiful. God. Yeah. But a really, really interesting game on Seraph Palace today. See Leonus opting for the strat of staying tier 2, whereas Banshee Fan invested in tier 3 but didn't necessarily get a lot out of it, and that can be one of the issues of going to tier 3, because we did see the Seer Council coming out, and they are level 3.5, so they did a lot of damage, but Banshee Fan wasn't really able to get much more out of it. I think it's hard to know where things went wrong. It was definitely towards the end with a decisive engagement. We do see the level 5 Crisis Commander, level 5 Warlock, just playing it out to the end, 29 to 42 VPs, and an overall really, really nice game with some really good plays, really interesting moments, and very, very back and forth action. It is exactly what you want to see out of a game of Dawn of War 2.